The episode begins in Professor Hamilton's laboratory. Inside, he is preparing Galatea for her mission, finishing off the Justice League with an army of Ulti-Men clones. Hamilton tells her that the Ulti-Men clones cannot think on their own and are fully dependent on her commands. The transmitter he installs in her forehead will serve as a telepathic contact with the Ulti-Men's mind and allows her to control them remotely. Waller then appears to remind Galatea of the mission. Before Galatea goes, she stops by the door and hugs Hamilton goodbye as he calls him Daddy. Hamilton's shocked face is replaced by concern when Galatea leaves. Aboard the Watchtower, the League successfully regains its communications system, and the first call they receive is from Flash with a report on the ground situation. Thankfully, there are no casualties. However, people blame the League for what happened. Flash suggests not to send reinforcements for the rescue as it will only cause panic since humanity has lost its trust in the Justice League. As the Watchtower has yet to regain its full power, the League can only rely on the news report below for updates. Upon seeing the situation on the blast site, Superman calls a council meeting with the 5 founders. Superman implies that they are also responsible since it is their canon in the first place. To minimize the backlash on the League's reputation, Wonder Woman suggests an act of cooperation which Superman agrees. In the bridge, as the rest of the crew and the League members work flat out, the founders arrive. Superman announces that the founders will turn over themselves until proven innocent in the meantime. Kara objects, but Superman entrusts her with the safety of the Watchtower and the other members while they are gone. On their way to the U.S. government's custody, they call Batman and Flash to inform them about the plan. Flash agrees to come, but Batman thinks they should worry about finding the person who framed them first and refuses to go. The rest of the founders, including Flash, surrender themselves to the awaiting authorities. In the Watchtower, Kara and Steel continue to repair the bridge system as soon as possible. Kara cannot understand why the founders need to surrender even are innocent, but Steel assures her that the founders will be okay. They are considered the best not because they are the first or the most powerful, but because they can choose the right decision even if it is not the easiest. Patrick then spots a barrage of javelins heading straight for the Watchtower. As it gets closer, Steel determines it to be Damocles-class missiles, the same technology manufactured by LexCorp. Instead of explosive warheads, the missiles are equipped with driller heads. The missiles scatter and bore throughout the hull of the Watchtower and reveal a pod that contains the Ulti-Men from each warhead, one containing Galatea. Meanwhile, in Cadmus, Amanda Waller and General Eiling monitor Galatea's mission. Batman suddenly appears from above and knocks out General Eiling. He then confronts Waller, who hides the remote behind her back to turn off the screen showing the attack. Batman tells Waller that the League would not dare to fire the cannon, and she knows it. Batman dismisses Waller's theory that the League did it in retaliation for kidnapping question, and points out that the cannon was fired remotely, which only 3 people on Earth can do. 2 aboard the Watchtower, and the other is Lex. Batman emphasizes that Waller should keep a close watch on Lex, really close. Back to the Watchtower. All remaining League members deal with the Ulti-Men clones while the rest of the human crew hides. In the middle of the fight, Steel notices an alarm from the reactor and immediately flies down to check. Kara then leads the defense on the bridge. One group of Ulti-Men reaches the infirmary. Huntress and Question join the battle. As one of Wind Dragon's clones attacks the 2, Captain Atom saves them with his energy blast, giving his loyalty again to the Justice League. Kara runs after Steel to check on the situation in the reactor, but she finds Atom lying weakly on the floor. When she enters the reactor room, she sees Galatea effortlessly sweeping Steel. Galatea is so strong Steel's armor almost disintegrates into pieces. Galatea drops Steel as per Supergirl and informs that she plans on overloading the reactor to cause an explosion and blow up the whole tower. She knocks down Supergirl after several punches, bringing the latter up to her feet only to be punched again. Supergirl sneers at Galatea with the fact that she is the only weapon grown out of Hamilton's laboratory. This makes Galatea fueled in rage. Meanwhile, Waller investigates Lex's activities with Cadmus and discovers that Batman was indeed right. Lex has been stealing copies of their advanced technology and sending it back to LexCorp. Hamilton confirms that the technology can be used to remotely control the cannon in the Watchtower, but that's the least the device can do. Hamilton stares in horror as he realizes what Lex plans to do. When they discover that Lex fooled them, Waller calls Galatea to abort her mission. Even with direct orders from Waller, Galatea refuses to stand down. Her mind is fixed on finishing off Supergirl. Steel wakes up in time seconds before the reactor reboots while Galatea burns Supergirl with heat vision. Steel blasts Galatea away and informs Supergirl of the reboot. Only seconds away, Supergirl charges and delivers a few blows to buy time. Galatea knocks her on one of the reactor's power links. When the reactor's power is restored, Supergirl pulls the link and plunges it to Galatea, feeding her with a massive amount of energy from the reactor. Galatea screams in pain as Supergirl pins her with the power link, causing her to overload. She lays on the ground, mountain eyes wide open with a tanned body and burned hair as she twitches. The League members also defeat the last of the Ulti-Men members and celebrate as the power is restored. The celebration tones down quickly when the power goes off again. It was due to Galatea absorbing the energy from the reactor. In his laboratory, Lex finishes the final touch of his creation, an android body made by the likes of Amazo. Batman then appears and confronts Lex. He figures out Lex's true intention when he realizes that Lex has a photographic memory of when Adam showed Amazo's blueprint to Lex. Batman follows with Cadmus's true purpose, covering up Lex's traces by giving himself superpowers. Lex confirms and adds that he also intends to ruin Superman's reputation and make himself a hero by saving the world from the hands of the League. Batman tries to destroy the android, but Lex only catches and crushes his explosive batarang, much to Batman's surprise. A quick fight subdues, and Lex throws Batman out of the window. Before Batman can hit the ground, someone rescues him. Back at the LexCorp laboratory, Lex prepares to transfer his consciousness to the android. But before he can do so, Waller appears with a nano-disassembler cannon, Lex's design, and fires at the android, melting it. Lex rages that it would take him weeks to rebuild himself an android, but Waller declares he is now under arrest for trying to lay off everyone in Cadmus using the League's cannon. When Lex charges and attacks Waller, the 7 founding members of the League appear. Although outnumbered, Lex refuses to surrender. Suddenly, he clenches his hand on his head and screams. He falls onto the floor and transforms into a monster with a 3-dot triangle on his chest and tentacles. A skeletal, robot-like face emerges from his abdomen, and his voice changes to a robotic monotone while admitting to keeping himself hidden, but the League didn't leave him much option. Superman calls it Brainiac as he stares in rage and disbelief. On the next episode, still at LexCorp, the 7 founding members and Amanda Waller listen to Brainiac as he explains how he managed to invade Lex's body. As shocked as he is, Lex recalls how Brainiac kidnapped and forced him to build a new body. If ever Brainiac's body gets destroyed, he devises a countermeasure, inserting a microscopic copy of his program into Lex's body through a blast that carries a nanotech payload. From then, Brainiac steadily grows in Lex's body while curing his kryptonite-induced cancer and giving Lex superhuman strength. As the League tries to get Lex into custody, Waller fires at the android on his stomach. But Brainiac only repairs himself and releases an energy shock, sending the League and Waller out of the building. Superman fights Brainiac, but it transforms the building into a mechanical construct able to launch tentacles from its walls. The tentacles attack each of the founding members. Waller also joins in the fight with a laser gun. The combined powers of the League are no match for Brainiac's tentacles, which only regrows back when damaged. Brainiac managed to restrain all the 7 founding members. He plans to digitize the individual knowledge the League members have and eliminate their physical form. As Brainiac tries to digitize them, Jaons breaks free and removes the links from Brainiac's body. He implies that his body is incapable of another fight and decides to flee. Before he goes, he transforms the top of the LexCorp building into a giant skull-like ship that shoots laser blasts. With Superman's heat vision and Green Lantern's laser ring, the League manages to destroy the ship. As the League examines the remains of the ship, they discover that Brainiac escaped. The attack was only used as a diversion. Brainiac is now walking in a sewer a few miles away from the League to repair himself. When asked Lex about his role in Brainiac's plan, Brainiac points out that he only sees Lex as his temporary vessel meant to be destroyed once he records all of Lex's information. Lex then tells Brainiac that he can offer a higher purpose than Brainiac's program of digitizing the universe, imagination, which comes with something in return. As the League cannot find any trace of Brainiac, it suggests that he will have to repair himself from the damage. Now that his body is entirely nanotech, Waller tells them he will go to Cadmus to take control of the strongest nanotech weapon, the Dark Heart. After absorbing the Dark Heart's nanotechnology, Lex and Brainiac transform into a new being with the power of absorbing all the information in the entire Earth and galaxy in one single stroke. On their way to Cadmus, the League calls the Watchtower for reinforcements, but due to Galatea and Ultimen's attack, all the javelins are destroyed and the teleporter is still down. As the other members cannot get in time, only the 7 founding members are left to face Brainiac. When they arrive, Lex and Brainiac in their new form greet them, encased in a fusion energy reactor powering up the machine that will instantly destroy Earth and the universe, but also allows them to rebuild it to their liking. Superman tries to convince Lex to fight Brainiac but refuses to. For Lex, this will help him achieve everything he wants: power, ultimate knowledge, and immortality, even in exchange for the Earth's oblivion. As the League attacks, Brainiac summons android replicas of the Justice Lords, each to fight their own counterpart in the League. Each of the replicas taunts each of the League with their worst fears. Superman's fear of the people losing trust in the League, Shara Hall's betrayal of the Thanagarian Empire and Earth, how Green Lantern lost the love of his life, Flash being the most childish among the League members. However, the League is not affected by all the replica's insecure remarks except Superman, who hesitates to attack when the android changes its face to Lex. Thankfully, Wonder Woman comes to his aid. After defeating the android replicas, they charge at Lex Brainiac together but were stopped when energy beams fire at them. Flash dodges the attacks, but one manages to knock him to the ground. Wonder Woman appears with a javelin and throws it at the machine, destroying it. With the rest of the founding members unconscious from the energy beams, Flash is the only one left. Lex Brainiac summons android soldiers to restrain Flash and attempts to eliminate him the same way President Lex did. Flash breaks free and dashes away as Lex Brainiac begins to reassemble the machine. But before he can even assemble the first parts, Flash comes rushing at the speed of light and smashes against Lex Brainiac, so fast that a piece of armor tears. Flash repeats it, but this time the fastest he ever can, traveling across the globe so fast that he hits Lex Brainiac several times. Flash runs faster and faster each time, and every strike he lands hits harder than the previous one. With all the energy he mustered, he stops and jumps onto Lex, whose Brainiac's armor is nearly destroyed. Flash vibrates both of his hands fast and drills into Brainiac's armor. The energy surge causes an explosion that completely tears off Brainiac's armor, leaving only the naked Lex. When the dust settles, Flash seems overloaded and then slowly disappears. The rest of the founding members gape in horror as Lex boasts to have eliminated Flash. Superman, fueled with rage, lifts Lex on his neck as he prepares his heat vision. Wonder Woman attempts to stop Superman, but Batman signals her to back down. Although he loathes Lex, Superman firmly says he is different from the Justice Lord's Superman even if he wishes to be. Jayons then interrupts them to say that Flash is still alive, and his spirit is still there. Shayra reaches out and touches a Speed Force portal where Flash currently is. Flash seems to want to stay in the realm, but Shayra and the rest of the League pull him back to reality. Flash then tells them that if he ever goes that fast again, we can never come back. Watching from a distance, Waller informs the President that Brainiac has been neutralized and calls off the airstrike. The following day in Metropolis, Superman delivers a speech in front of a crowd, including the other League members and the Watchtower crew. He admits that the League is guilty of separating itself from the people they want to protect. To remove the fear from the citizens, Superman announces the decommissioning of the Watchtower and the disbandment of the Justice League. As the founders begin to leave, Green Arrow steps out of the crowd and reminds Superman how they saved the world again. He insists that the League can continue with or without Superman, but they are heroes needed by the people, and the Justice League needs Superman. The crowd applauds with smiles on their faces. With an encouraging nod from Batman, Superman finally agrees and delivers a speech about making changes to the League for easy access to Earth, starting with opening an embassy. Batman happily leaves for Gotham after a small talk with Green Arrow, who has proven himself worthy of being in the League. On the Daily Planet Tower, Lois Lane is working late when Clark Kent checks in on her. She is finishing her story about the League. As Clark comments on her choice of word to describe the League, Lois says she is tough on the Justice League as anyone, especially with Superman, who she sees to have set a very high standard. Lois adds that Superman is only human after all, confirming Clark that he understands what she means. Clark agrees and looks out the windows to the sight of the Metropolis city lights. On the last episode, a mysterious man sneaks into a heavily guarded house. It was Terry McGinnis, confronting the now very old Amanda Waller, 65 years after Lex's defeat. However, she seems to be expecting Terry's arrival and welcomes him as her guest. He brought several questions with him that demands an answer. Waller asks him how did he figure out everything. A few months earlier, Bruce Wayne needed a tissue donor to clone an organ due to kidney failure. Terry was tested, and it turned out he was a perfect match. In search of the truth, he ends his 15-year-long relationship with Lana Tan and relieves himself from his duty to the Justice League in his mind. Terry also confronts the old Bruce Wayne about the DNA test that proved him to be Bruce's genetic son. He angrily recounts how good of a man his father, Warren McGinnis, is and that every affection he has for him is a lie, knowing that he is not his real father. His negative thoughts about Bruce Wayne clouded his mind, and all he can think about was how Bruce masterminded his existence. Waller, however, tells him that Bruce is far from what he thinks Bruce is. She proceeds to narrate a story that happened long before Terry was born. Back to the time when Waller and Bruce were still young, the Justice League was in a battle with a group of supervillains called the Royal Flush Gang. The League manages to subdue the gang members but now needs to face their leader, Ace, who can telepathically alter reality. Waller appears with a special device designed to stop Ace and warns them that Ace is on the verge of a massive aneurysm, which will cause a psychic backlash, causing loss of life within the range of her power. Batman volunteers to use it as he is the only one in the League Ace knows. Batman reaches Ace, who already knows he would not use the weapon, having read his mind in the first place. Batman confirms it and reveals he only wants to talk Ace into reversing what she had done. Ace knows she will pass away very soon, and with tears, she asks Batman to stay with her. Batman sits beside her on the swing and holds her hand. Outside, the world returns to normal, and Batman walks toward them with Ace in his arms. She breathes her last peacefully beside him. After hearing the story, Terry still refuses to believe that Bruce is innocent. Waller then admits to having done it. She tells Terry that the world needs another Batman and how she was originally an enemy of the Justice League. As the head of Project Cadmus and the government liaison to the League, she slowly developed a huge respect for Batman and also learned to trust him. For her, Batman was incomparable to anyone who only used his wits, body, and will to become a superhero, unlike the others. But as the years pass by, Waller begins to notice how Batman ages and in time will pass away, or worse, someone will take his life. The thought of a world without Batman is unacceptable for Waller, so she initiated a project, Project Batman Beyond. Using her old Cadmus contacts, she gathers the technology needed along with Bruce's DNA from one of the bandages used to treat him for injuries during a fight. A young couple almost identical to Batman's parents, Warren and Mary, were exploited by Waller to bear Bruce's genetic son. What Warren thought was a flu shot turned out to be a nanotech solution carrying nanobots that altered Warren's reproductive DNA into Bruce's. However, Waller believes that in making another Batman, genetics is not enough, so she hired an assassin to take Terry's parents away like Bruce's. But the assassin hesitates and tells Waller that Batman would never resort to taking innocent lives for his purpose. Although Terry's parents spared that time, they still met their demise years after. Even after hearing everything from Waller, Terry is still infuriated by the fact that no matter what the truth is, he is meant to be Batman's carbon copy. Waller then comforts him and says that even God works in mysterious ways with plans unknown to them. But one thing is for sure, everyone is free to choose their fate using their own free will. She adds that Terry is not only Bruce's clone but his son. Although with several differences, Waller emphasizes that both have a heart full of compassion towards others. She says she has met nobody as altruistic as Bruce, but maybe Terry is. Before she leaves, Waller gives Terry a piece of advice: take care of the people who love him or don't, and leave the decision to Terry himself. Back in the Wayne headquarters, Terry intently thinks about Waller's advice. He phones Dana and confirms their incoming date that weekend. He grabs a box in his pocket, an engagement ring for his proposal plans during their date. As he drops the call, Bruce appears and asks him about where he had been. Terry answers that he had taken care of some stuff and apologizes for making Bruce worried. Bruce denies it and says he only worries about Gotham if Batman is not around. Bruce grabs his medicine bottle, and to his surprise, Terry helps him open it while saying he has everything under control. Bruce then mentions that Superman needs help with something. Terry rushes out to leave, but Bruce asks him to eat something first and calls him stubborn when he refuses to. Terry then says he is just like his old man, secretly referring to Bruce. A familiar winged figure soars the skies of Gotham and flies past a hovercraft, leaving one of the pilots confused if he saw something or not.